Imagine you're driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour. Suddenly, somebody reaches over from the passenger seat and grabs your steering wheel. What do? You'd fight to get it back. Because you know something important. Whoever controls the steering wheel controls where the car ends up. But here's the strange thing. Sometimes in life, we hand that steering wheel over without even realizing it. We let anger drive. We let temptation drive. We let our friends drive. We let jealousy drive. We let somebody's disrespect drive. We let something that happened 5 years ago drive. And then we wonder, why does my life keep ending up somewhere I don't want to be? Maybe it's because something else has been driving. Today I want to give you one simple idea that can help you take back the wheel. It's called the 10-second rule. But first, I want to tell you about someone who learned how expensive a few seconds can become. When Mike Tyson was young, his life was chaotic. He grew up in Brooklyn, New York, surrounded by crime and violence. He got into fights. He got in trouble with the law. He was arrested numerous times as a kid. But people also discovered something extraordinary about him. He could fight. And under the guidance of legendary boxing trainer Cus D'Amato, Tyson began learning discipline. He learned how to train, how to focus, how to turn all that aggression into something useful. And he became almost unstoppable. At just 20 years old, Mike Tyson became the youngest heavyweight boxing champion in history. Think about that. 20 years old, heavyweight champion of the world. He had fame. He had money. He had power. He had one of the most intimidating punches boxing had ever seen. But there's something interesting about power. Power without control can eventually turn against you. And Tyson's life began spiraling. And then came one of the most infamous moments in sports history. It was June 28, 1997. Mike Tyson was fighting Evander Holyfield in Las Vegas. Millions of people were watching. Tyson was frustrated. Holyfield was winning the fight. Tyson believed Holyfield had been headbutting him. He was angry, and during the third round, Tyson lost control. He bit Holyfield's ear. The referee temporarily stopped the fight. Then the fight continued, and Tyson did it again. He was disqualified. The crowd erupted. Chaos broke out inside the arena. And suddenly one of the most talented fighters on earth wasn't being talked about because of his boxing ability. He was being talked about because he couldn't control himself. Think about how quickly it happened. Years of training, years of sacrifice, years of building a career. And then in just a few seconds, Tyson's boxing license was revoked by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and he received a multi-million-dollar fine. One impulsive reaction became part of his story forever. That's the scary thing about losing control. The decision might last 5 seconds. The consequences can last for years. Now imagine if you could freeze those moments inside the boxing ring. Tyson is angry. He's frustrated. He believes something unfair is happening. And suddenly everything stops. 10 seconds. That's all he gets. And someone asks him, Mike, what happens next if you do this? That's the question I want you to remember. What happens next if I do this? Because anger usually doesn't think about what happens next. Temptation doesn't think about what's next. Peer pressure doesn't think about next. They think about now. But wisdom asks, and then what? So here's something you can actually use. Next time you're angry, tempted, pressured, or about to make a decision when your emotions are running hot, give yourself 10 seconds. Those 10 seconds can feel like forever in the heat of the moment. But those few seconds can give you the time to ask, what happens next if I do this? You aren't promising that you'll never get angry. You're not promising you'll never be tempted. There's no promise that you won't be pressured by those around you. You're simply creating some space between the feeling and the decision to take the action. And that little space of time can change your life. Proverbs 16 verse 32 says, "Better to be patient than a warrior, and better to have self-control than to capture a city." Think about that. Thousands of years ago, people understood something we're still trying to learn. There's another scripture I really like. James 1 verse 19 says, "Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger." Now, think about that. It doesn't say, never get angry. Anger is an emotion that we all deal with. Sometimes there are legitimate reasons to be angry. The scripture says, be slow to anger. So when you get angry, slow it down. Put some space between what happens to you and what you do about it. 10 seconds. And then think, what happens next if I do this?